Hey folks, today I am going to be pit firing a bunch of pots for the Durham County Pottery Tour this weekend, and I kind of wanted to show you a little bit of how that process looks. It's fairly simple to do if you have a couple of pots at home that you've just fired to 04 or 06. And it works best if you put a coat of terracid on the outside. So let me turn this camera around hopefully and see if I can show this to you guys. All right, so this is my setup. I have all of my pots. They each have a coat of terra sigillata, which is basically kind of like a fine, very fine slip. And I have different colors. I have blue, a little tiny bit of cobalt in there, and a red one, just more of a traditional look. What I've also done is I have 3 containers. This container has water and copper carb in its powdered form. It's not measured out. I just dumped some copper carb in there, some water, shook it up, and then I've cut hemp string and I've let that hemp string soak in here. And so the idea is that later on, when I'm decorating the pots, I can drape this hemp string all on the pots, and the copper, when it fires, will flash pink or red or kind of a purpley color. Also have cobalt. With the cobalt, I don't get the best results. Sometimes it's just black. When it works out, which is not all the time, I get a nice purpley blue color. And in this one, I have sea salt. I don't think I have it labeled, but it's just regular old sea salt. I fill this up with water and I dissolved as much salt as possible, and then cut my hemp string and let this has all been soaking for a while. I actually forgot I had these hemp strings in there, so it's been a couple of months. Normally I just soak them for like a day, or half a day if I'm in a rush. I'm going to decorate with these strings, but I'm also going to use the brushes, and I'm going to dip the brushes in these different solutions to brush on the pots. So the sea salt will give you like a yellow color, an orange. It blushes really pretty. So hopefully, if I can figure out how to edit these videos, I'll add in some pictures for how pit fired pieces look. Now, if you can't get your hands on copper carb in its powdered form, you can just use copper pieces. Before I started doing it this way, I would actually just buy copper wire and wrap my pots in copper wire, which was a little time consuming, a little expensive. I actually have quite a few copper pieces from Jackie, who used to be a Liberty artist, and so I have copper pieces that I got from Jackie a couple of years ago, and I'll tag Jackie to this post. Hey Jackie, thank you. I am still using these copper pieces. They're super great. And so instead of wrapping my pieces in copper, when I place these pieces in the pit, I can just place the copper piece beside a pot, and then as it fires, this part of the pot will blush pink and a little red, and it'll give me some color without having to spend a lot of time wrapping the pots in copper wire. And then also a little cameo from little Miss Mabel. All right, so here's my pit. It's just the outdoor fire pit. I did dig it a little deeper today, so it was a little more shallow. I guess made it 2 or 3 inches deeper, just so I can stack those pots really nicely in here. Because the ground is really wet, I typically will line the pit with foil. I don't want my pots up against the really wet soil. I'm not sure how much protection this actually provides. But yeah, I did it one time and the pots turned out great. So I just do it anytime the soil is really wet. So what I'll do is I'll line the rest of this in aluminum foil. I'll go ahead and put down a layer of sticks of pieces of wood, maybe a few copper pieces in the very bottom. Once I get a fine layer on the bottom, then I'll go ahead and layer another put another layer of pots on top of that and then start adding some decorations to it. So I'll do another snippet with that information in just a second. All right, so I have my first layer of combustible material down. So I just basically put a bunch of twigs that are going to easily catch, some larger pieces that are going to help the fire continuously burn, and I threw down a little sawdust just to kind of help ignite some things. I may throw in a few leaves or some cardboard so that when I light this, the fire will quickly spread and become evenly lit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and start to decorate some pots. So I really love the yellow tint that the sea salt provides. So on a lot of the pots, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and soak this brush here. This is going to be a little awkward because I can't quite hold the pot and do the video. But what I'll do is I'll get this soaked and I'll just start doing a layer of sea salt water solution all over the pot. Now I'm doing this way because just putting sea salt directly onto your pot and firing it can cause the salt to, I don't think this is the correct term, but melt, and it'll stick to your pot. It'll be like this yellow gummy solution, and that could eventually eat through your ware. So it's really nice for like a design element, and I'll see if I can throw in a photo of how a piece looks with it on there, but it's just best if you can get a nice coat of it up here. And so I'll do that all the way over. And so I like to apply my terracage rather thickly so you can see where I've applied it and it's kind of cracked, has that old paint look or like old peeling paint or antique look. I really love that. And sometimes in the pit firings, if you put sawdust near this particular area, it'll highlight the cracks and the cracks will turn really dark and it'll have a nice contrast compared to the rest of the pot. So I'll do that. And then I'll also go around, this is my copper solution here. And I'm just trying to use the thin stuff up top. I'm not scooping any of the thicker stuff on the bottom because that'll just turn straight black, which is also a really nice design. And I'm just going to, let's do that. Let's focus it just in this area. So hopefully I'll get pinks around here. I'll get some yellows, like a yellow halo. And then if I set the sawdust right, hopefully I'll get nice black lines in these crackle areas as well. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so I have this completed. Doesn't look like much now, but later on it should really pop with a lot of colors. So this hemp string is the one that's soaked in cobalt, and I would suggest wearing gloves for this. I typically don't, but I should probably tell everybody to wear gloves. So if you're gonna use these solutions, wear gloves when you're working. So now that I have this piece covered in a little bit of copper solution, sea salt, the cobalt soak hemp string, I'm going to go ahead and find a place for it in the pit. So I want to make sure I get a really nice dark black spot on the piece, and I want it to turn really, really dark, almost like a purpley blue black, and be really concentrated and then kind of fume blue and purple like as that smoke wraps around the pot. So what I did was right in this corner I placed a pile of fine sawdust. I have access to a woodworker, David, thanks David, at Liberty Arts, and he has given me a bunch of sawdust. So this stuff is fairly fine, and all I do is place it in one area. I'm gonna find that area where, yep, this is the spot where I put most of the copper, and I'm gonna set it right on that pile of sawdust. So hopefully that part of the pot will have this super intense black. The rest will kind of fade into this blue, purpley, gray colors that kind of wrap around. It'll hit the pink from the copper and then kind of transition into yellow from the sea salt, and hopefully have some, if the cobalt works out, purpley lines around here. If not, it'll be like a black kind of blush all around there, which can be really pretty too. And now to add even a little more decoration, I will take a few pieces of copper, grab my sea salt, Now, all this will move as the fire goes on, but I try to place some of this early on. So I'm gonna place a copper square here to hopefully intensify the copper carb that I already have on the pot. I'll place some on the bottom as well. Maybe some, oh, sometimes I'll place some on the inside to get a little bit of color on the inside. That doesn't always work, but occasionally I'll throw a piece in there on that side. And then I'll take a little bit of the sea salt. Again, this is just regular old sea salt, and kind of pour it around. Now, that little bit that fell in between the copper piece and the pot will kind of stick. So I'll let it stay, and I'll let it work, and we'll see what happens. And I'll put a little bit around here. Hopefully that'll fume and kind of blush more yellow onto the pots, or maybe onto the pot that I'll place next to it. So that's how you place your pot in a pit fire. All right, so I have decorated and laid all the pieces in and created little places for these colorants to fume and kind of imprint on the pot. So here I have a chunk of sea salt, and I have a copper piece, and this piece also has the water, sea salt solution, copper solution, and a little streak of that cobalt, which I think will just turn black, and maybe with some bluish imprints. I've also bent some copper pieces around copper soaked hemp string. I've also tied some around, this has sea salt soaked hemp string, and then settled a bunch of sawdust here to hopefully get a nice black kind of fume cloud there. And so every piece is a little different. I'm hoping I get some varied results, really nice results. And so what I'll do now is try to take all the wood back from Mabel, but I'll go ahead and take all of my wood now and begin to place this over the pots, cover them, and then tonight when I come back from throwing more pots at the studio, I'll light this up. I'll let it fire on its own for a while, maybe add a few extra pieces of wood, maybe throw in a few pieces of the copper scraps that I have. And then tomorrow morning, I'll come in and uncover all these pots, and I'll pull them out, and hopefully we have some good results.